Discover the miraculous construction of Noah's Ark, divine journeys of God's chosen carpenters. In the days of old, a time filled with lawlessness and corruption, the Lord looked upon the earth and found it filled with wickedness. The imaginations of man's heart were only evil continually. In this dark age, there was one man who stood blameless, Noah, a man of righteousness, who walked with God in integrity. As the sun rose over the verdant fields of Mesopotamia, stirring the land with golden rays, it marked the beginning of a summons from heaven that would change the course of creation. While tending to his garden, the whisper of despair that clung to the world around him was broken by an unmistakable voice, the voice of the Almighty. God spoke with clarity, revealing the grievous state of his creation. "I have determined to make an end of all flesh," the Lord declared, his heart weighed down by the sorrow of his own creation, Genesis 6:13. Yet, in the midst of judgment, there was mercy. He commanded Noah to build an ark, a refuge of hope that would preserve not only his family, but also pairs of every living creature. The dimensions and materials were prescribed with divine precision: 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high, crafted from gopher wood, with rooms within and a roof above. Genesis 6:14-16. Invigorated by both fear and determination, Noah gathered his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, sharing with them the divine charge. Together they embarked on a colossal task, collecting gopher wood from the ancient forests, each splinter resounding with purpose. Laughter and scorn shadowed their efforts. The townsfolk called out mockingly, "What madness drives you to construct a ship in a world drenched in sin?" But with each blow of the hammer, Noah's faith flourished, both for him and his sons. Months turned into years. The ark took shape, rising majestically against the endless sky, bearing witness to God's plan in stark contrast to the unfolding chaos around them. Despite the taunts of those who reveled in their wickedness, Noah pressed on. His every act of obedience radiated a hope that pierced the veil of despair that enveloped the land. As the grand structure neared completion, Noah felt a weighty uncertainty. The cries of the wicked grew louder, their rebellion fiercer. Yet then the voice of God thundered once more, "For I will establish my covenant with you." Genesis 6:18. The promise of salvation echoed deep within Noah, instilling a profound resolve to complete the work given to him. With rain clouds gathering on the horizon, darkness encroached upon the earth. The stark dichotomy between faith and rebellion illuminated the tension surrounding the ark, a testament of divine mercy poised on the edge of an impending storm. Would their faith be steadfast amid the torrent? Would the world ever understand the purpose behind their labor? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As the first drops of rain kissed the ground, the ark stood tall, a beacon of hope and a sanctuary amidst corruption. With uncertainty clinging like mist in the air, Noah and his family prepared to face the judgment that the world was blind to. The floodwaters would soon rise, washing away the tainted legacy of rebellion, but within the ark lay the promise of a new beginning. Here in the shadow of judgment, the legacy of faith began to echo through the ages, leaving the question lingering: how would this divine plan unfold in the days to come? And it came to pass, as the skies darkened and the clouds swirled in ominous formation, that the voice of God spoke to Noah again, saying, "Enter the ark, you and all your household, for I have seen that you are righteous before me in this generation. Genesis 7:1. With a heart full of reverence and awe, Noah obeyed the command of the Lord. He gathered his family, leading them to the vast door of the ark, which stood as a gateway to salvation. The air was heavy with a foreboding stillness, as if all creation held its breath in anticipation of the flood. The animals approached, great and small, each obeying the divine call to enter the ark. 2 by 2 they came, their eyes wide with an instinctive understanding of the peril that awaited outside. The lion and the lamb, the raven and the dove, all passed before Noah, entering the refuge prepared for them. Yet as the last of the creatures took their place within the hallowed wood of the ark, an unsettling quiet enveloped the earth. Noah shut the door, sealing them within. "Let it be as the Lord has commanded," he murmured, feeling the weight of the world pressing upon him. Then the heavens opened, and the rain poured forth from the depths of the sky like a deluge unleashed from the very heart of God. The waters burst forth from the deep, flooding the land in an unrelenting tide of judgment. The ground trembled as the rivulets transformed into torrents, sweeping away the pride and rebellion of mankind. Inside the ark, peace reigned, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. Noah and his family offered prayers of thanks for the mercy bestowed upon them, clinging to hope amidst fear as the storm raged on. Day turned into night, and night into day, as the floodwaters rose, covering the earth in despair. For 40 days and 40 nights the rain fell, and the ark heaved upon the waves, rising and falling with the fury of the storm. Yet within, the presence of God surrounded Noah and his household, granting them comfort amid the tumult. They tended to the creatures entrusted to them, sharing stories of God's faithfulness, their spirits bolstered by the assurance of the Almighty's promise. But as the waters continued to rise, the cries of the world outside echoed louder, bitter wails of anguish and regret, voices pleading for deliverance that was no longer within reach. The wicked had ignored the warnings of God through Noah. Now they faced the consequence of their disbelief. As the skies began to clear and the sun pierced through the heavy clouds, a sense of stillness settled over the land. The waters that once roared now calmed, revealing a world utterly transformed. And God remembered Noah, protecting him and the life within the ark. In that moment, the time had come for restoration, for the heart of God to reveal his merciful plans in full. With the earth still shrouded in mist, Noah sent forth a raven, followed by a dove, searching for dry land, symbols of hope and a new covenant yet to be fulfilled. As the dove returned, it bore an olive leaf, a sign that the tides of destruction had receded. The promise of life whispered through the waters, urging Noah to look for the touch of God's redemptive grace. And as the ark rested upon the mountains of Ararat, Noah listened for the voice of God once again, aware that this was not merely an end, but a beginning, a new chapter in the annals of creation awaited to be written. What revelation would the Lord bring forth from this moment of quiet as he prepared to remake the world anew? The unfolding of divine purpose lingered, waiting for the faithful to discern the depths of God's plan. And it came to pass, on the first day of the first month of the 601st year of Noah's life, that the waters which had prevailed upon the earth began to recede, and the earth started to reveal its face. The mountains, once veiled in a watery shroud, began to emerge as dominions of dry land, restoring the hope of life anew. Noah looked towards the heavens, his heart swelling with gratitude. "O Lord, you are the steadfast anchor in every tempest," he proclaimed softly, reverently reflecting upon the trials they had endured. As time passed, the once relentless torrent turned into gentle rain, and the sun's rays began to warm the sodden soils. Within the ark, the creatures stirred, sensing the change in the atmosphere. The lions roared softer, the doves cooed gently, as if to celebrate their deliverance. And Noah turned to his family, saying, "Let us prepare our hearts for the coming days, for God is faithful, and he shall renew the earth." Then God spoke to Noah again, saying, "Go forth from the ark, you and your wife, your sons and their wives. Bring forth with you every living thing that is with you, birds, livestock, and every beast of the earth, that they may swarm on the earth, and be fruitful and multiply upon the earth." Genesis 8:16-17. Filled with anticipation, Noah opened the great door of the ark and stepped forth into the light of a new day. The world lay before him, transformed and cleansed. The air was fresh, and the scent of damp earth mingled with the fragrance of blossoming flora. All that had once perished was now renewed in God's glorious tapestry of creation. As the creatures stepped onto the ground, the lions and bears, the horses and sheep, the foul and gentle creatures, their existence echoed God's command to fill the earth. Noah marveled at the sight, for in their march from the ark, he saw the promise of the Creator echoing through every living being, a vibrant renewal of life, singing in unity. Noah built an altar unto the Lord, offering sacrifices of every clean beast and every clean bird. And as the flames danced before the heavens, the scent of the burnt offerings rose as a sweet aroma, pleasing unto the Lord. "I will never again curse the ground because of man," God vowed to himself, "for the intention of man's heart is evil from his youth." Genesis 8:21. Then God spoke to Noah, establishing his covenant. "This is the sign of the covenant that I make between me and you, and every living creature that is with you, for all future generations. I set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth." Genesis 9:12-13. As he spoke, a magnificent rainbow arched across the sky, unparalleled in beauty, gleaming with the promise of mercy and grace. In that divine moment, Noah understood that the flood had not merely washed away sin, but had ushered in a new covenant, a fresh start for creation. He knelt upon the earth, tears of worship glistening in his eyes as he beheld God's faithfulness and the endless possibilities before them. As the rainbow faded into the horizon, Noah sensed a stirring within his spirit, a call to lead in this remade world. But what new challenges await, he pondered, for the journey of faith had only just begun. Thus, a new chapter was written in the annals of creation, and with it, God's eternal purpose remained unfolding. What did the Almighty have in store for Noah and his descendants? The whisper of destiny lingered, promising the depths of untold mystery in the plans of the Sovereign One. And it came to pass that as the sun set upon the horizon, painting the sky with hues of gold and crimson, Noah raised his eyes and lifted his hands in fervent prayer. "O Lord, you who have brought us forth from the depths, grant us wisdom to inhabit this new earth." As the days stretched forth, Noah and his family traversed the land that was once submerged. They explored valleys blooming with new life, encountered rivers flowing with crystal clarity, and marveled at trees adorned with budding leaves. Each creature they beheld carried the marks of divine craftsmanship, and Noah filled his heart with praise for the Creator. In the evenings, as the stars adorned the vast sky like precious jewels, the family gathered to recount the wondrous acts of God. "Remember the darkness, the sound of the waters, how his hand preserved us." Noah reminded his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, who sat rapt with attention. "We are witnesses to his deliverance, and our lives must reflect such grace." Then God spoke again to Noah, saying, "Behold, I establish my covenant with you and with your descendants after you, and every living creature that is with you." Genesis 9:9. The weight of these words settled upon Noah, igniting within him a renewed sense of purpose. One day, as Noah walked through the fields where new crops began to sprout, he felt the urge to plant a vineyard. In this land of restoration, let us rejoice and celebrate your goodness, O Lord, he declared. While his sons tended to the animals and helped cultivate the land, Noah labored over the vines, and in due time they bore fruit. Harvest season approached, and with joy uncontained, Noah gathered the first fruits of his labor. "Come, let us share in this bounty together," he called to his family. They feasted under the sun, giving thanks to the Almighty for his provision. Yet within Noah's heart a sense of urgency stirred, for he could not shake the weight of God's commission to lead his people into righteousness. Amidst the joyous gatherings, a heaviness returned in whispers from the wind. Will man tread upon this new path, or will he falter in the steps of old? Noah pondered, fretting over the legacy left behind. As he gazed upon his sons, he understood that they must walk in the ways of the Lord. Days passed, and the seasons turned. The greenery flourished and animals roamed free. Yet within the shadows of the past loomed the ever-urgent need for vigilance. "Guide us, O Lord, to uphold your commandments," Noah prayed silently, his heart aligned with heaven's call. Then one morning, as the dew glistened upon the grass and the sun rose with renewed vigor, God spoke once more. "Noah, prepare yourself, for the earth will face trials again, and the hearts of men shall be tested." Noah's spirit quaked within him, for he sensed a foreboding that gripped the world. "How shall we be a refuge, O Lord?" he inquired, feeling the weight of the nations upon his shoulders. "Teach them of my ways," God responded. "In humility reveal the steps of faith, for I desire all to turn and seek the refuge of my grace." As Noah mulled over these words, the profound depth of his mission dawned upon him. He saw not only a vineyard, but a legacy that would nurture generations to come. Thus he turned with resolve to his sons, urging them to prepare their hearts, for their journey would intertwine with all human history. In this renewed world, amidst the promise of restoration, a greater mystery awaited. What trials shall come in pursuit of faith, he wondered, the echoes of divine purpose weaving through time. The Almighty's plan was yet to unfurl its wings, and Noah stood at the precipice, prepared for what lay ahead. And it came to pass that in the days following, as the vines flourished and the earth yielded its bounty, Noah's heart remained heavy with the burden of the Lord's message. The weight of his commission pressed upon him, and he called his sons together once more, saying, "Gather, for we shall speak of the ways of the Lord, and prepare our hearts for the trials to come." Shem, Ham, and Japheth approached their father, their faces lined with youthful determination. "Father," Shem began, "what is it that you foresee? What are these trials the Lord speaks of?" Noah looked into their eyes, seeing in them both courage and the flicker of uncertainty. "The hearts of men are like clay in the hands of the potter," he declared with a voice forged by conviction. "They may be soft and shaped into vessels for honor, or hardened against the truth. We must strive to teach them of righteousness, lest they return to their folly. Let us together build a refuge, not only for ourselves, but for any who would seek sanctuary in the face of coming storms." Noah continued, "For even now I sense that the Lord shall call upon us to prepare for all that is to befall the earth." Thus, as the sun rose high in the sky and the air filled with the fragrant scent of ripened grapes, Noah began to speak of an undertaking great in scale and purpose, a vessel that would shelter those seeking deliverance. "A great ark shall we build, a testament to the faithfulness of our God," he proclaimed. "It shall be a refuge from the tempest that is to come." Japheth, his agile frame betraying excitement, asked, "But father, how shall we construct such a mighty thing? The trees are plentiful, and the labor is arduous. Will we have the strength?" Noah smiled at the enthusiasm of his sons. "Indeed, the labor shall be great, but greater still is the promise of our God. To obey him is to walk in faith. We shall gather the wood as he has commanded, and he shall guide our hands. Remember the words of the Lord, I will establish my covenant with you and every living creature. Genesis 9:9. Our work shall echo throughout generations. With that, the family set forth to gather materials, calling upon the strength of their hands and the unity of their spirits. Day by day, the frame of the ark began to take shape, wood interlocking in a divine tapestry of purpose. As the beams rose to meet the sky, so too did the faith of Noah and his sons swell within their hearts. Yet amidst the clamor of their work, a whisper of doubt wound its way into their minds. For as they toiled, they heard the laughter of those who walked the land, mocking their labor. "What foolishness is this?" they would say to one another. "Where is this flood that you speak of?" Noah stood firm against the scoffers, for he remembered the covenant of his God. "It is not for us to defend the ways of the Lord. Our task is to remain faithful in our calling," he taught his sons, instilling in them a resolve that would weather scorn. And so they persevered, day and night, their hands sturdy and their hearts steadfast. As the shape of the ark stood tall against the horizon, the winds whispered of trials yet to come, echoing God's sovereignty as a reminder of the covenant that bound them. At dusk one evening, after a particularly laborious day, Noah paused to look upon their work. "What shall become of this ark, O Lord?" he mused, feeling the weight of destiny before him. "Have faith," came the gentle voice of God, resonating through the stillness of the twilight. "For your obedience shall pave the way for a greater story, one that shall echo through the ages." As the stars began to emerge in the darkening sky, Noah's heart burned with fervor. God's plan was unfolding, yet unknown were the trials and tribulations that awaited both him and the world. But even now the air bristled with anticipation, for soon the heavens would reveal the true purpose of the ark, and the hearts of men would be stirred once more. "What is this purpose, O Lord?" Noah pondered, driven by the whisper of divine intent that enveloped the night. And it came to pass that as the days turned into weeks, the labor of the sons of Noah continued. Shem, Ham, and Japheth labored with an intensity fueled by both devotion and the urgency of their father's words. The timbers of cedar and cypress, hewn from the forest, were laid down with care, each piece treated as sacred, for it would form the vessel of their salvation. "Father," said Shem one morning, his brow glistening under the sun, "will the ark truly be sufficient to contain all that must be saved? How shall we gather the creatures of the earth?" Noah, his hands weathered and worn, replied, "The Lord shall bring them to us, as he has ordained. Just as he spoke light into existence, so shall he command the beasts to enter the ark. Our duty is to prepare with faith and unwavering hearts." With this resolve, they turned their focus to the great dimensions of the ark. Noah instructed them, saying, "The Lord has given specific measurements, 300 cubits in length, 50 in breadth, and 30 in height. We shall build it with rooms and make a roof to cover it. This is his command, is his." The ark's frame began to rise like a steadfast fortress against the heavens, a symbol of hope amid despair. Tools were fashioned from what the earth provided, and the sound of hammers echoed in the stillness of the land as they joined timbers in a sturdy embrace. Nearby, the mockers continued in their jest, but their derision fell upon deaf ears, drowned by the faithfulness of labor. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in hues of amber and crimson, Noah gathered his family. "Let us pause for a moment and give thanks unto the Lord," he proclaimed, kneeling upon the fertile ground. His sons followed suit, their spirits lifted in prayer. "O Lord, creator of all things, we beseech thee for strength in our labor. Let our hands work for thy glory, and may our hearts remain steadfast in faith, for we stand at the precipice of thy great design." Suddenly, a parable from his youth lingered in Noah's heart, a tale of God's creation, the tempered storm, and the promise intrinsic within the bow of the heavens. "I recall," he began, "how the heavens opened, and the floods came upon the earth, Yet amidst the wrath, thy bow remained as a sign of covenant. Such is the work before us. Let this ark represent a covenant anew. Days turned into months, and as the heart of the ark came together, rumors fed by ignorance spread. Yet amidst the scorn, the Spirit of the Lord moved as the days grew shorter and the air thicker with impending change. It was during a night of deep prayer that Noah received a vision, a glimpse of what was to come, a moment filled with both dread and divine assurance. In that stillness, the voice of God pierced the veil of night once more, saying, "The time draws near when the heavens shall open and the earth will quake. Prepare your hearts, for when the door of the ark is opened, you shall begin the journey that is ordained." Noah trembled at these words, knowing the weight they carried. The realization settled upon him, filling him with a grave solemnity. The ark's purpose was not merely for his family, but a vessel to preserve life against the flood, and thus a seed for a new beginning for all creation. "Let us be ever vigilant," he urged his sons as he gathered them close. "For the Lord shall test the very fabric of humanity. The hearts of those in the land shall be laid bare, and the righteous will be shown mercy. The wicked shall be swept away, the fury of God's justice displayed." As a sudden wind stirred through the trees, rustling the leaves like a whispered warning, Noah's heart was heavy yet hopeful. What would become of humanity when the clouds were gathered, and the promise of the Lord fulfilled? And thus, with the ark nearing completion, the mystery of God's plan hovered in the air. Would there be room for all who sought refuge? And how would the hearts of man respond when faced with the might of heaven's decree? In this silence, the hand of providence began to move, weaving the threads of destiny ever closer. As the final touches were made to the immense structure, the sun rose one morning with a radiance that bore witness to the urgency of the hour. The days of labor had wrought strength into their bodies, yet a deeper strength brewed in their hearts as they united in purpose. Noah instructed his sons diligently, "Behold, the Lord has commanded the gathering of the animals. They shall arrive, for our preparation must not falter at the hour of his bidding." The air was thick with anticipation, and the lands surrounding their home echoed with the sounds of labor and jest alike. The mockery of neighbors clung to the air like the dust the workers kicked up from the ground, yet Noah's family held steadfast to their belief, for they had glimpsed the impending judgment through the lens of grace. Night fell upon the land, a thick blanket of darkness illuminated by the stars above, and Noah withdrew to his tent to seek the Lord in prayer. "O Most High," he uttered, kneeling on the cool earth, "may your design unfold as you have spoken. Allow me to see your ways in this darkened time, for I yearn to comprehend the breadth of your goodness even as we face the storm." His heart was filled with an ache of responsibility. The burden of the fate of humanity weighed heavy upon him like a mighty yoke. Again, the Lord met him in the stillness, his voice a balm. "Fear not, Noah, for I shall provide. When the time is fulfilled, I will bring forth unto you every creature, 2 of each kind, to keep alive their seed upon the earth. Remember my covenant, for it shall be your solace amid the rising waters." The dawn broke anew with clarity, and with the light of day, the first murmurs of the miraculous began to stir. Animals, led by an unseen hand, would be heard approaching in pairs, their eyes fixed upon the great ark. Shem, Ham, and Japheth, awestruck and trembling, stood watch as a lioness with her cub, a fierce bear, and gentle doves began to congregate before the entrance to the vessel. "Father, behold!" cried Ham, his voice cracking with both fear and excitement. "The creatures come even now, fulfilling your words." Noah raised his eyes to the heavens, his heart swelling with gratitude, and he whispered, "Blessed be the Lord, who even now turns the hearts of his creation to heed his call." With each arrival, a sense of divine order enveloped the scene, the chaotic mockery silenced by the palpable weight of God's purpose arriving at their feet. The family worked in harmony, ushering each pair into the carefully prepared spaces, their movements deliberate and prayerful. Yet a deepening mystery remained. How would the world respond to what they could not see? As the parade of animals continued, the jeers of the people nearby shifted to murmurs of curiosity. Those who had once scorned began to question, "What are these creatures doing? Why have they come to this strange vessel?" "Let them mock no longer," Noah muttered to himself as he witnessed their bewilderment, for he recognized the divine thread weaving throughout humanity, the very hearts of men being stirred to a reckoning. The days hastened forward, and a shadow of impending judgment loomed ever nearer. As the ark became filled to capacity, Noah returned again to the solitude of prayer. "Lord, the hour approaches," he prayed with fervency. "Grant our hearts courage, for the waters shall soon cover the earth, and the cries of humanity shall reach unto the heavens." Then came a sudden stirring in the air, the sound of thunder, a distant rumble heralding the beginning of fulfillment. Noah stood at the threshold, his heart both heavy and hopeful, pondering how divine intervention would unfold. Now was the time of reckoning, for the promises of God were always true, and a flood was upon them. Yet what remained was the question echoing through the hearts of the faithful. Would mercy be found in the midst of judgment? With the doors of the ark sealing behind them, would there be grace extended even now? Thus, as the heavens gathered their clouds and the earth held its breath, the stage was set for a revelation yet unseen, a testament to God's sovereign plan. For every covenant holds within its heart the depths of mercy waiting to be revealed. As the clouds thickened and the air turned heavier with moisture, the days rolled on, each marked by a sense of foreboding and anticipation. Noah and his family continued their labor, ushering the countless pairs of creatures into the great ark. The sounds of their paddings and rustlings merged with the echoing cries of rippling waters, a somber symphony heralding the nearing deluge. Amidst this fervor, the hearts of men outside the ark grew increasingly agitated. The sun, which had shone so brightly over the building endeavor, now seemed to flicker as dark clouds filled the firmament. Each clap of thunder resonated like the echo of divine judgment approaching. The scornful laughter that once rang out now turned to hushed whisperings of apprehension. Noah's sons, burdened by the weight of the world's derision, maintained a steadfast resolve. "Let us not falter now," urged Shem, gripping the tools of their labor with calloused hands. "The Lord is our refuge. We must prepare as he has instructed." "There are signs of something great, something fearful," added Ham, his gaze drawn to the darkening skies, gripping the arm of Japheth. "We must be vigilant, for the day draws near." "What shall we say to the people?" Japheth inquired, scanning the faces of the onlookers. The questions and confusion were rife. Each day they see the creatures upon the ark, yet they do not comprehend. Shall we call them to witness the truth? "Let our actions speak for us," Noah said, his voice steady, resonating with the gravitas of their sacred duty. "As the Lord commanded, we will remain silent as vessels of his promise. They may not see, but by faith we know what is to come." The sun was now a memory, eclipsed by the encroaching shadows of judgment, and Noah's heart ached not merely for himself, but for those who continued to stubbornly heed, not the warnings of heaven. "Lord," he prayed anew, with earnestness burdening his soul, "intercede for them. Turn their hearts that they may see the mercy intertwined within your judgment." As dark as the skies had grown, a relentless rhythm emerged. Raindrops began to fall, gentle at first, then heavier, racing like wild steeds upon the earth. An unearthly silence fell upon the land, and disbelief settled in the hearts of the gathered. For in that moment of divine intervention, the waters of life turned into a tide of judgment. Inside the ark, Noah and his family, having completed their sacred task, gathered in solemn prayer. They felt the thrum of the storms outside, the very heartbeat of creation unfolding in chaos. "Hear our cries, O Lord," Noah declared, raising their voices as one. "We seek refuge in your steadfast love. May your mercy overshadow the tempest." And amidst the pouring rain, the door which had remained ajar began to seal, a sign that God had closed them into his embrace. The people moved further back, struck by the sight of the lumbering vessel now pulsating with life. The babbling doubts transformed into gasps of terror as they realized the weight of their disbelief, the fullness of their rejection. Yet within the confines of the ark, where faith flourished and love burned ever brighter, they understood that God's imminent plan held a purpose beyond the imminent wrath. For the cries of the innocent mingled with the drumming of the rain. "Is there no other way?" As the floodwaters surged, sweeping away doubts along with every last ounce of resistance, the eyes of heaven looked upon the darkened world. With the heavens opened wide, grace was still to be revealed. For what had begun in judgment would mount toward a profound renewal. A hidden promise awaited its unveiling. And so the Spirit stirred in their hearts like a gentle whisper. The story of all creation is only just beginning. As the heavens poured forth in sheets of wrath, and the earth began to tremble under the weight of the cascading waters, the ark stood resolute against the coming tide. Inside, Noah and his family sought solace, not in their surroundings, but in the presence of the Almighty, for their hearts trembled with both fear and anticipation. The rain pounded relentlessly, drowning the cries of the world outside, yet within the ark a sacred stillness enveloped them. Noah turned to his sons, their faces lit by the flickering light of oil lamps, and he spoke with a voice that resonated with divine authority. "Fear not, for the Lord has called us for a purpose greater than we can fathom. This dark hour shall pass, and through it a new dawn shall emerge." Shem nodded, his eyes gleaming with faith, though uncertainty haunted the corners of his heart. "What shall we do, Father? We must act if we are to preserve the essence of creation." Noah raised a hand, silencing the doubts that threatened to unravel their resolve. "We shall tend to what has been entrusted to us. Each beast, each fowl, bears witness to God's timeless design. Let us care for them, as the Lord cares for us." Meanwhile, the world outside succumbed to a mounting chaos, the tumult of waves crashing against the sides of the vessel, sending tremors through its wooden frame. The air grew thick with the cries of the lost, as voices once filled with mockery pleaded for mercy. But the door that God had sealed could not be opened, for his sovereignty remained intact. In the hours that followed, the rains fell in torrents, the waters mounting higher, and the once familiar landscapes became obscured under the deluge. Japheth caught glimpses of the chaos through a narrow crack, his heart heavy with a burden he shared with his father. "Will they call out for help?" he whispered, almost as if in prayer. "They may call," Noah replied sorrowfully, "but they failed to hearken to the call of the Lord when he was patient with them. Now they shall witness the depth of his judgment." With the knowledge of grace and judgment intertwined, the family busied themselves. They fed the creatures, whispered prayers for the world beyond, and spoke stories of old, of creation's splendor and promises yet to be fulfilled. Each moment became an act of worship, a defiance against despair, a proclamation of faith in his divine plan. As days turned into weeks beneath the relentless rain, Noah felt the tremors of something greater than the storm. "Lord, what must we learn in these shadows?" he cried out in fervent desperation. Suddenly, amidst the cascading floods and roaring winds, the internal chamber grew silent, for within their hearts a divine revelation stirred. A promise awaited that even they could not see yet, a glimpse of redemption woven through the waves of judgment. Noah recognized that their endurance and faithfulness were to lay the foundation for something unparalleled. Just as the sun faded from sight amid the fury, the weight of God's plan began to unfurl anew. Within every drop of falling rain was a reminder of covenant and of grace, for soon his mercy would paint the skies once more. And there, amid the storm of judgment, the heart of the Almighty pulsed with an everlasting promise. There shall be hope beyond the flood, a new covenant awaits. As the ark floated upon the rising tide, a trembling question echoed in their hearts. What new beginnings shall emerge from this trial? And it came to pass after days and nights of ceaseless rain that the ark floated upon the waters, held firm by the promises of God. Inside, Noah and his family clung to faith and each other, their hearts attuned to the pulse of divine purpose that surrounded them. The flood that swept over the earth was a testament to God's judgment, yet within the strong wood of the ark lay a sanctuary of hope. Noah knelt in prayer, tears streaming down his face, for even amid the tumult he sensed the weight of salvation resting upon him. "O Lord, your mercy is unfathomable," he whispered. "Though your judgment is fierce, I trust that your restoration shall be even greater." The hope he carried was not merely for survival, but for the promise of new life to come. Days turned into weeks as the rain ceased its furious descent, yet the waters continued to rise, shrouding the world in an unending deep. The confinement within the ark became a trial, yet it also bore a closeness to God that seemed unshakable. Each night they gathered, sharing tales of creation, recounting God's faithfulness, and lovingly caring for the creatures that filled the vessel. Their faith, once punctuated by fear, was now nurtured by fervent resolve. And so, as the waters began to relent and the earth gradually revealed its visage, the voice of the Almighty resonated once more. "Noah," he spoke, and the very air shimmered with authority. "The time has come for you to leave this ark and witness the renewal I have orchestrated." With trembling hands, Noah opened the door, a threshold that signified both an ending and a beginning. As the great door creaked open, sunlight, vibrant and warm, flooded the interior. The family stepped forth, breathing in the sweet, crisp air, their eyes wide with wonder at the transformed world before them. The landscape, once drowned in destruction, began to awaken with a resurgence of life. Tall trees, lush greenery, and bright flowers adorned the earth, burgeoning with the promise of rebirth. Nature's palette unfolded into a masterpiece painted anew by the hand of the Creator. "Oh, how magnificent is your creation, O Lord," Noah proclaimed, his voice echoing the awe in his heart. He turned to his family. "Let us rejoice, for the Lord has brought us through the storm and into a world restored." As the creatures emerged from the ark, reclaiming their place in the world, a divine orchestration of life erupted. The roars of lions mingled with the songs of birds, the rush of streams intertwining with gentle rustling of leaves. The rhythm of creation pulsed through the land, restful and strong. Then in a moment of divine revelation, God spoke once more. "Behold, I establish my covenant with you and with every living creature. This is the sign of the covenant I make with you. I set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth." As the last light of the storm faded, a rainbow emerged, resplendent against the clear blue sky. It arched across the heavens, a luminous promise echoing God's grace and mercy. Noah knelt before the Lord in reverent gratitude, tears of joy flowing freely. "Indeed, you are our salvation. Your promise shall be our legacy." He understood now that this covenant was not merely for him, but for all generations, entwining them into God's eternal narrative of redemption. Turning to his family, he declared, "We are called to be stewards of this new earth, reflectors of his grace through our lives. Let us teach our children of his love, of the storms faced and the mercy bestowed." In that moment, the destinies of Noah and his descendants were forever altered. They would carry forth the lessons learned through the tempest, their legacy intertwined with the breath of God, a lineage destined to seek and follow the heart of their Creator. And so it was that Noah, righteous in all his ways, set forth to build an altar unto the Lord, offering sacrifices of thanksgiving and praise, proclaiming the might of the God who preserves. As the aroma of the offerings rose to heaven, a fresh start dawned upon the earth, glistening with the hope of divine mercy written in every green leaf and vibrant bloom. The world was restless yet renewed, and the fire within Noah and his family rekindled faith like a beacon shining against the darkness. They ventured forth into life, bound by covenant promises, navigating the beauty and challenges of this new beginning, armed only with the faith and courage bestowed upon them. Thus the story of Noah culminates not simply as one of judgment, but as a divine testimony of hope, hope that thrived in the heart of crisis, illuminating the relentless commitment of God through every generation. For he who remembers his children in the flood shall surely usher them into his promise. As the sun set on the horizon, casting golden hues over the fresh tapestry of life, the threads of history began to weave a new story, one laced with the wonder of creation and the joy of faith unbound. And with every step forward, the legacy of Noah stood firm, echoing through eternity, a reminder to all who would walk this earth that here lies the pathway of faith, waiting for hearts willing to trust in the unfailing love of God. Before we conclude this powerful biblical journey, I want to remind you to subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next impactful stories from God's Word. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth by leaving a like now. Your support helps ensure God's message reaches more souls. I invite you to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need encouragement in their faith journey. Comment below your thoughts and share how this incredible story of Noah has touched your heart and spirit. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word, for only true believers understand the importance of supporting this mission to reach more people for Christ. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony.